This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform helping you succeed online.
Hey everyone, so in this camera comparison, I've got the Vivo X300 Ultra, which is what you're seeing right here, up against the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which globally and especially here in the US are recognized as having some of the best smartphone cameras out. But companies like Vivo have really been catching up, and I think iPhone's really been lagging, especially in the camera hardware department. So the camera sensors across the board are going to be larger on the X300 Ultra than what you're going to find on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. But like I've said in other videos, it really comes down to software image processing because these camera sensors are pretty small anyway. But companies like Vivo, again, have really been catching up in the software image processing department, and a lot of their photos and videos have been looking very, very good. And so really what it comes down to, the differentiator nowadays is also going to be outside the main cameras that everyone uses, is going to be in the telephoto sensors, which depending on who you are, you may or may not use or appreciate. But the telemacro capabilities, if you like to get up close shots, are going to be very good on the Vivo, whereas the iPhone, you can't even do that. You cannot get close to subjects with a telephoto camera. And I recognize most people don't really care about that outside of photographers. So real practical applications of the telephoto sensor is going to be in long range zoom. And I think anything over 10x is really where Apple zoom starts to fall apart. And whether or not you agree with computational photography or AI to clean up those images, long range zoom, anything over 10x, that's where companies like Vivo and others really shine. And so if you like to take photos and videos when you're out and about, as far as concerts or sporting events or photos and videos of your kids, I think that's where long range zoom has a lot of practical application that even the casual user would appreciate. And I think that's where companies like Vivo are really overtaking Apple. And here's some quick portrait video indoors from the Vivo X300 Ultra and cinematic video from the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So you should be seeing some artificial background blur here. But with all the specs and everything out of the way, what really comes down to is how do the photos and videos actually look and which ones do you personally prefer? So like in every one of these camera comparisons, I'm going to show you a bunch of photos and videos in both good and low light conditions, so you can decide for yourself which of these two camera systems are going to be best for your smartphone camera needs. So go ahead and take a look at all the photos and videos and let me know what you think. However, just a quick break from the video to remind you that having a personal or business website is a great way to organize and centralize your online content and activity. So if that sounds good to you, then today's sponsor, Squarespace, definitely has you covered.
With Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform, creating your personal website is quick and easy. Just sign up for a free trial and use their Blueprint AI website builder or select from a library of templates to get up and running in minutes. Creating a photo gallery is quick and easy. Just add a new page and select from several predefined layouts. Then edit the gallery with your information, upload your images and optional descriptions, and enable the lightbox option to allow visitors to view larger images in a carousel. And when you're ready to publish your website, go to squarespace.com/grantlikestech for 10% off your first website or domain. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace, for sponsoring today's video, which helps me bring you more content like this. So let's go ahead and get back to the video. And we're starting out with the ultra wide angle cameras on each at 4K 60 frames per second. So I'm just gonna pan around here to give you a side-by-side view of how these ultra wide angle cameras look in this setting. Lots of blues, greens, and that red shed over there. And at least what I can see in the viewfinder, the iPhone is really oversaturating the skies. It is not that blue. It's much closer to the blue that I'm seeing with the Vivo. It's a much lighter blue, not a very dark blue and deep blue, but we'll go into the main camera, see if that changes. So on the Vivo and on the iPhone. So still looking oversaturated on the iPhone to me. This could be different once the video comes off the cameras, but in the viewfinder, the blues is too blue. On the iPhone, much closer to what I'm seeing with the Vivo. So I'm just gonna pan around here in the same scene with the main cameras now, and obviously a tighter crop on the Vivo with the 35mm focal length on the main camera. But we'll pan over here to the right and we'll test zoom on that cell tower. So 3x or 2.5x telephoto there, 85mm on the Vivo, 4x telephoto there on the iPhone, and we can double that up to an 8x digital on the iPhone, and there on the Vivo. You move all the way to max 20x on the Vivo and a max 24x on the iPhone. So pan up and pan down and hold steady. And both pretty much steady, they both settle down a bit. But let's go out to the main camera on the iPhone and on the Vivo, and we'll test the autofocus on this post with the Vivo first. And away, focuses up. Nice shallow depth of field or natural background blur there on the Vivo. Now with the iPhone, focuses up real quick, but not quite as shallow depth of field, not as large a sensor, not as much bokeh there. And one more time with the Vivo just so you can see that again. And let's go ahead and walk down the stairs so I can show you what the stabilization looks like side by side here as I walk through the pathway as well. And you can see how the lighting conditions change and what that does to the picture quality, going from bright to this shadowy area. And I'll just try to stress out the stabilization a bit. So there you go, a quick video test of the rear cameras here on the Vivo X300 Ultra and iPhone 17 Pro Max. Hey, so we're back with the rear cameras, this time at portrait video on the Vivo and cinematic mode on the iPhone. So you should be seeing this artificial background blur, and you can adjust the aperture so you can make this as much or less blurry as you want. And obviously a much tighter frame on the Vivo with the 35mm lens compared to the iPhone. Main camera there, and I'm in the shade so you can see what this looks like with some even lighting, but I'll go ahead and step out into the sunlight here. So now the sun is kind of shining off on my right. You can see what that looks like here with much more light here, which this effect tends to need. But I'll pan around so you can see what this looks like with the changing light conditions with it now kind of more directly on me at this point. And I'll keep panning around, so it's going to be more off of my front left. And we'll just keep going all the way around to where we started, or actually much more directly behind me now and shining directly into the cameras. So you can see what that looks like here. And back to where we started. And I'll just go ahead and start walking so we can test the stabilization. So you can see what it looks like side by side, as well as how this effect holds up with some movement. So let me know what you think about cinematic mode here on the iPhone and portrait video on the Vivo. So this is a test of the front-facing cameras of the Vivo X300 Ultra and iPhone 17 Pro Max. This is being recorded at 4K 60 frames per second. And then, so obviously I'm outdoors, lots of harsh afternoon sunlight, so you can see what this kind of looks like. It's coming off of my front right at this point, but if I pan around, you'll see what this looks like as the lighting conditions change. So now it's going to be more directly on me right here. So you see what it looks like with that. And as I pan around this way, it's going to be more off of my front left. And we'll keep going all the way around so that it goes shining directly pretty much into the cameras at this point, and right there, more of the sun directly into it. And I'll pan around this way and I'll just start walking so we can test the stabilization. I can show you what this looks like here side by side. So let me know what you think about the front-facing cameras here on the Vivo X300 Ultra and the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Alright, so we're back with the front-facing cameras, this time at portrait video on the Vivo and cinematic mode here on the iPhone. So you should be seeing this artificial background blur, and the aperture is fully adjustable, so they're both set to an f/2.8, so you can adjust that to be as much or less blurry as you want. Also, it's pretty windy out here, so a very good test of the microphones and how much of that background noise they cancel out. But again, I'll just pan around to give you a see what this looks like here as the lighting conditions change, and the light is more directly on me at this point, so you can see what that looks like there. A lot of harsh afternoon sunlight, and if you keep panning around, you can see what it looks like here off of my front left. And from this angle, it'll be more directly into the cameras, and with the sun shining pretty much directly into it at this point. And we'll pan around to where we started, and I'll just walk so we can test the stabilization and show you how this effect holds up with some movement. So let me know what you think about the portrait video here on the Vivo and cinematic mode here on the iPhone front-facing cameras. Alright, so here's a low-light video test of the Vivo X300 Ultra and iPhone 17 Pro Max. We're starting out with the ultra wide-angle cameras at 4K 60 frames per second. So I'm just going to pan around here, do a side-by-side view of how the ultra wide-angle cameras compare in this particular scene at night. You can see the really bright street light with the moon right above it. And the Vivo has the larger ultra wide-angle camera sensor, so it lets in more light, brighter picture than what you're seeing with the iPhone's ultra wide. And we can go ahead and move into the main cameras on the iPhone. You're going to see everything brighten up considerably because the main sensor lets in much more light. You can see the trees in that against the skyline became a lot more clear, much more defined. Now the Vivo, and you can see here, I'm not sure what's going on with the auto exposure here with the Vivo. Everything looks very purplish, the trees look hazy, but we can go ahead and try to lock exposure and see what happens. And as I was playing with this before, once I kind of play with the exposure levels, it got better. But right now, for whatever reason, it's not. There we go, a little bit better. But I'll pan around to give you a side-by-side view of how everything looks with the main camera. And obviously a much tighter crop or longer focal length on the main camera, 35mm versus the iPhone's 24, so everything looks tighter. And you can see there again, the exposure really adjusted again on the Vivo. I'm not sure if this is something to do with the July update, because I don't think this was looking like this before. But everything looks purplish for whatever reason as of now. You can see there it adjusted and looks okay. Come back up and it jumps around a little bit. And I've played with this a little bit, so that just happens. So if you're gonna use auto, that can happen. If you go manual, you have much more control, but we'll go to the telephoto test here on the Vivo and on the iPhone. And of course, larger sensor on the Vivo for the telephoto, so brighter again than the iPhone. And if you move into 20x there on the Vivo and 24x on the iPhone. And so both looking pretty clear, fairly bright, a little more steady on the Vivo. As we stop it and pause it and lock it in. Yep, more steady on the Vivo. We'll back it out on the iPhone. And on the Vivo, back to the 1X main, and we'll pan back this way and we'll just start walking so I can test the stabilization and show you what that looks like here side by side, as well as move over to a darker area along this walkway away from those bright lights. And as you move around the walkway and go around the corner, you'll see a bit brighter light again, so maybe some bright to dark to bright transition. And as you're around the corner, you can see that really bright street light again. And in general, everything is getting brightened up a lot more in auto mode here than with my naked eye, especially as we pan away from that bright light and down this alleyway. Much darker than what both cameras are showing. And again, the Vivo looking very purplish, but you try to get the exposure to lock in a bit, and there you go. A little bit better, a little bit less purplish. But we'll go ahead and pan up into the night sky. See what that looks like here. A lot of light pollution, so you're gonna see some noise because of that, especially in the iPhone, from what I can see. Then we'll pan back around this way and back down into what looks like a darker alleyway to my eye, but much brighter because of these cameras. And again, Vivo purplish sky, and there we go, locking the exposure. Looks a little bit better. So that's just what you're gonna get when using auto mode. Things can jump around. Vivo, go to pro mode, you can lock everything in. But there's your low light video footage of 4K 60 frames per second on the Vivo X300 Ultra and the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Let me know what you think about the footage. So here's a low light video test of the front facing cameras of the Vivo X300 Ultra and iPhone 17 Pro Max. This is being shot at 4K 60 frames per second. And I'm outdoors here at night, obviously, but in some pretty ideal lighting conditions, a bunch of light around me. So giving these cameras the best opportunity they can do to look as best as possible with some good amount of light. And I'll move here with even more light, a little bit clearer maybe. And if I pan up, you can see how it does with that really bright street light behind me there. But overall, at least from the viewfinder, Vivo looking much cooler. The iPhone SKU's a little bit warmer. I think the iPhone might be looking a little bit clearer. I'm not really sure, but let me know. I think in reality, I think Vivo's probably closer to what it looks like. I think iPhone's skewing much too warm, like it always does. Although these are warm lights, it's not that warm. And I'll go ahead and start walking so I can just show you the stabilization and what this looks like here side by side, as well as I get away from those bright lights, you can see what it looks like here. Maybe with a little bit less light, especially right about now when some of those lights are out of the way, a little bit darker area as you walk around there. But if I pan all the way around, you can see what this looks like with a bunch of street lights shining more or less directly into the camera, what the picture quality looks like there. So if you're out and about at night, you're probably going to be around some level of light and moving in and out of them. That's kind of what you might expect from the quality, depending on the quality of those lights. But outdoor lights don't tend to be the greatest. And as you move here, I'll just give you a side-by-side view of what this looks like without any of those bright lights around me. It's going to be kind of dingier lighting conditions, so not the best. So this is what it looks like with maybe subpar lighting conditions here. And again, same thing, iPhone skewing much warmer. Vivo now looking kind of clear, at least as far as much better in the color temperature. And from what I can see in the viewfinder, looking fairly clear for the lighting that we do have. But let me know what you thought about the overall camera comparison here between the Vivo X300 Ultra and iPhone 17 Pro Max. Which one did you prefer and why? Or if you had both of these, or you had a chance to use both of these, which ones would you personally pick and use? For me, I think it's gonna be a toss-up, depending on what you want. Well, I actually have a clear opinion, but my general opinion is always that in skilled hands, both these phones are going to produce some really good results. If you are familiar with being able to shoot with pro level formats, being able to color correct, color grade, and edit in post-production, both photos and videos, you're going to probably get some really high quality images and video out of either of these smartphones. But of course, the Vivo has much more pro style filters and camera software built in, while of course there's third-party apps for both Android. There is also high quality third-party camera apps for iPhone, and so that you can always compensate that way. But what you can't compensate for is the actual camera hardware, which is going to be superior on the Vivo. So personally, I think in skilled hands, the one with the higher quality hardware, and Vivo's has really good software processing too, with all the third-party software apps and everything at your disposal. You're gonna get more out of the Vivo, at least for me. And in my own personal usage, I am not a pro level photographer, but I think I am above average. I'm an enthusiast, and I think even for me and in my shooting, I had more enjoyable experience with the Vivo. And I think once you kind of set it to the look with the color profile and the filter that you really want, even point and shoot, because of the high quality sensors and with the good software image processing, you'll still get really good results out of the Vivo, even if you're just a casual point and shoot user. But that's just my personal opinion. I think there's a lot of people who are very familiar with iPhone and its default image processing for both photos and videos, that you probably have gotten used to that look and you'll probably prefer that no matter what. But let me know what you think and what your experience is. If it matches up with anything that I just said, or you have a different opinion, let me know. Also, if you have any questions, put them in the comment section. I'll try to answer what I can. As always, thanks for watching.